You mentioned unhindered land convoys. So is it correct that Israel is hindering the flow of aid across the land border?
That's not at all what I was meaning to imply. The point that I'm making is that the amount.
Well, you say that they cannot and should not start an operation in Rafah without this plan, but I don't understand your use of the word cannot.
Certainly, yes. I will just to take a step back.
If there's a plan or not, they can do it.
Because last week, the top Israeli commander, military commander, talked about something like 3 islands. He called them human islands and so on, for moving 1.4 million people. Now, could this look anything other than like a concentration camp in your view? Is that a map? Is that a plan that you may have looked at?
On Gaza, we could get your response to the IPC, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Assessment, basically saying it's already the situation. Food shortages in the Gaza Strip have already exceeded famine levels. Mass death is now imminent. And basically, the UN says a ceasefire immediately is needed to avert this. Is that something that, given the severity that's laid out in this report, that the US might consider?
So first, I just want to say we have seen this alarming and heart-wrenching report, and it is quite stark. There are children who are starving, that are malnourished as a result of the fact that humanitarian assistance can't get to them. And that is why we believe so strongly that everything must be done to scale up the delivery of humanitarian assistance. We believe sustained humanitarian assistance is required. Unhindered land convoys, we think, are irreplaceable when it comes to the ability to reach people wherever they are across Gaza, in addition to the additive and supplemental efforts of delivery of food via maritime routes and airdrops. I don't have any new policy to announce, Simon. You've heard the Secretary say pretty clearly that we are for a ceasefire, but one that is coupled with the release of the hostages, and one that allows some space for continued diplomacy and deliberations for broader peace and security in the region.
You mentioned unhindered land convoys. So is it correct that Israel is hindering the flow of aid across the land border?
That's not at all what I was meaning to imply. The point that I'm making is that the amount of aid that has been entering Gaza up to we continue to need more, and this report is pretty stark in its assessment of how much more is needed. But we continue to see progress in that space. I will say over the weekend, the World Food Programme's 96th Gate convoy successfully delivered aid into Gaza. 18 trucks were able to enter the north without any incident, were able to offload at their planned destinations without any looting. There was no additional interference. I will also say that since March 2nd, U.S. C-130s and U.S. C-17s have dropped more than 315,000 meals, more than 140,000 bottles of water, and more than 5 tons of items such as rice, flour, pasta, and canned food. I'm certainly not trying to make the case that any of this is enough or addressing enough to alleviate any concerns, but it is a step in the right direction, and it's the kind of metrics we want to see and continue to hopefully see in the days ahead.
But just to clarify, the 18 trucks, surely there could be more trucks if it wasn't for the Israelis who are controlling that border.
Again, this is not you've heard me say this before, this is not a border that the United States controls, and Israel has legitimate security concerns, and we're respectful of appropriate steps that need to be taken for assessing security for anything that might be entering Gaza. But we also continue to believe that more can be done expeditiously, more can be done rapidly, and overall, more steps can be taken to allow the entrance of aid to help alleviate the dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
So sorry, I'll hand over in a second, but this 96th gate, there was this one load of trucks that went through. Is that now like a regular crossing that trucks will be going through?
That's our
every
hope.
day?
That's our hope. That's not for me to speak to from up here. I sort of just offer this metric to you as an assessment. But our hope is that the avenues that exist for humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza, all of them, these gates, airdrops, and so heavy, that all of them be pursued aggressively so as to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza right now.
Sorry, Vedant, can I just say,
Yeah.
you mentioned that one of the things that you were dropping was pasta. Are those part of MREs, or are you dropping, when you drop the pasta, are you dropping enough clean water so it can be cooked?
I don't have a technical breakdown of the kits, Matt. I just have 5 tons of food items that include rice, flour, pasta, and canned food. But I'm happy to. I'm sure USAID would be happy to
Okay.
check with you.
Thank you.
It's likely that they may already be ready to eat meals, already cooked. So have you.
Thank you, Vedant. A couple of questions. Today, the Israelis assassinated Faik Mabhur, who is one of the police commanders, and in fact, he was responsible for the distribution of the American flour a couple of weeks ago, and so on, effectively and efficiently. Now, if I recall, there was back in February, I think February 24th, the administration requested that Israel not assassinate the police force because they keep order and so on. Has Israel broken this?
I'm not aware of this
You know,
specific
Could
report.
you
Saeed.
look into it?
I'm not aware of this specific report, but I'm happy to.
All right, I have a couple more questions. Just to follow up on Simon's. UNICEF says that 13,000 children in Gaza have been killed. It's staggering, but it doesn't seem to have any end. I mean, this thing keeps going day after day. The Israelis keep going to the hospitals, over and over and over again. So we see them now at the Shifa complex. So, what is your comment? I mean, could this go on for the next 6 months?
Let me say a couple things on this side. First, as it relates to any timeline, we have not parsed words about the fact that we wanted to see this conflict end as soon as possible. And in fact, Hamas could end this conflict yesterday. Hamas could lay down its arms, all of its arms. Hamas could stop co-locating itself with civilian infrastructure, with civilian institutions like hospitals. Hamas could release all of the hostages that it has been holding since October 7th. All of those things could happen. And on the impact on children, we are, of course, devastated by the toll that this conflict has taken. It is an unspeakable tragedy, the number of children that have been killed. And it is an unacceptable outcome of the fighting of the past 5 months. And that is why at every opportunity, we have reiterated to our Israeli partners that additional steps must be taken to minimize civilian casualties. But again, Saeed, I will also remind you that Hamas could end this conflict at any moment by releasing all of its hostages, by laying down its arms.
So nothing short of Hamas laying down its arms will bring this war to an end, right?
That's not at all. That's not what I'm saying.
But that's what you just said.
That's not what I'm saying. When it comes to when it comes to a ceasefire, we have been very clear. I have, Matt has, the Secretary has, that we believe that progress being made on the release of hostages could allow for the conditions in which broader diplomatic conversations can be had when it comes to the safety, security, and stability of the region, and conditions could be created in which additional humanitarian aid might be able to enter Gaza, which is what we would hope for in such a ceasefire.
I want to ask about UNRWA, but just to follow up on your point now. I mean, are there any indications, has there been any assessment that Hamas is about to lay down its arms, that it's reaching the very end where it could say, cry uncle and say, that's it, we're done?
You've seen the secretary and others speak pretty clearly that we believe some kind of deal as it relates to the release of hostages and progress in other areas continues to be possible, and it's something that we're continuing to work towards.
Yeah, but just to remind you that last Monday, the intelligence chiefs, all of them said that, Hamas is not about to lay down its arms, so this war can go on.
Again, Zaid, this is something that we're going to continue to work towards.
Okay, one last question on UNRWA. Yesterday, Senator Chris Van Hollen called the claims against UNRWA as flat out lies, unquote. Are you in touch, first of all, with the senator? You looked at what he based his assessment on. Are you changing your position on UNRWA and the investigation and so on? Because it seems that all the Europeans, all your allies, Australia, Canada, all of them are saying there is no evidence that UNRWA was involved in any way, shape, or form.
Said, I will let the senator clarify or expand on any of his comments. I will just say that we found the allegations that were made against certain UNRWA employees to be credible and to be legitimate, and that is why we continue to be focused on this ongoing investigation. And as Secretary Blinken has said, it is important that these allegations are thoroughly investigated, that there's clear accountability, and that necessary measures are put in place so it doesn't happen again. We believe that the United Nations recognizes this, which is why we welcome the fast launch of an investigation and an independent review to look at some of these issues, and we look forward to the result. I will also say, though, Saeed, we agree that UNRWA plays a critical role in providing life-saving assistance to Palestinians in Gaza across the region, including essential food, essential medicine, shelter, and other vital humanitarian support. And lastly, on our partners and allies in other countries, these are sovereign decisions for those countries to make when it comes to the support that they are in a place to provision or not. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
The head of UNRWA today, Philippe Lazzarini, said that he was denied entry into Gaza by Israel. Does the United States have a stance on that, or has there been any discussion about that?
I would refer to our Israeli partners as well as the United Nations. I don't have anything to offer on
But
that.
do you think it's fine if they want to deny him?
I don't have insight into what Chairman Lazzarini was going for, and so I don't want to I don't want to misspeak, but I'm happy to look into more. But again, you've heard me say this before, just broadly, not as it relates to this circumstance. This is not a border that the United States has access to.
And in general, shouldn't a senior official from UNRWA, which you say is an important organization, should be allowed to visit Gaza?
Certainly, but again, I don't know the specifics surrounding this, so I just will refer to our Israeli partners on this.
Also, just sorry to clarify on the position on UNRWA. I think when the allegations first came out, the secretary said these allegations are credible in terms of, I think we're talking about 12 UNRWA staff who may have taken part in October 7th, right? That's one kind of allegation. I think there's a broader allegation that Hamas is a proxy for, UNRWA is a proxy for Hamas. Does the U.S. have, regardless of...
That's not an assessment that we share. It's not an assessment that we, that's not an assessment that you've seen us speak to or share. What we're talking about when I talk about these ongoing investigations is this specific circumstance around the subset of employees that you're referring to. Right. Michelle.
Yeah. Have you received any plan from Israel regarding entering Rafah, especially that the Prime Minister has confirmed during the weekend that they will be entering Rafah soon and they will be moving the people out of the area?
We have not seen any details to that plan, and we have been clear at the highest levels that Israel cannot and should not proceed with a full-scale military operation in Rafah without a credible and implementable plan for ensuring the safety and support for more than the 1 million people sheltering there. So no, we have not seen the details of that plan. The government of Israel has said that they will implement a humanitarian assistance plan. They've said that publicly, but we have not seen anything yet.
So, sorry, what you say? You've been clear that Israel cannot and should not start a Rafah operation. What does that mean, cannot? I mean, of course they can. Right?
What do you mean, Matt?
Well, you say that they cannot and should not start an operation in Rafah without this plan, but I don't understand your use of the word cannot.
Certainly,
because
yes. I will just, to take a step back.
If there's a
of
plan or
course,
not, they can do it. Right?
Let me just say that, again, Israel, of course, is a sovereign country. I say cannot as a turn of words to express our dire and immense concern about any kind of
I
impending...
get that, but I mean, it's not an issue of can, it's an issue of whether they should or not.
Correct.
Okay.
I will also just note, though, Matt, though, even in the, if we're going to parse on the specific of the words,
Well,
even in
you were the one who
can-
used it, not
No,
me.
I mean, I just to say that even in the, if we're focusing on the can of it all, there continues to be a lot that needs to be dealt with in the context of Rafah. One, you've heard us say this before, more than 1 million people are sheltering there. Rafah as a region overall is a conduit for entry of humanitarian aid. It's also a conduit for departure of foreign nationals. So without a serious, credible plan that addresses all of this stuff, I think it would be very difficult to conduct something like this. So perhaps they cannot even do something like this without a credible plan.
Vedant, can
well,
I just,
okay.
can I just follow up on Matt?
Sorry.
Because last week, the top Israeli commander, military commander, talked about something like 3 islands. He called them human islands and so on, for moving 1.4 million people. Now, could this look anything other than like a concentration camp in your view? Is that a map? Is that a plan that you may have looked at?
Said, let me just be very clear about this, so there's no question. When we're talking about any kind of humanitarian plan as it comes to Rafah, or plans that address how to ensure that the 1 million people sheltering there are not impacted by any violence or military activity, there is no part of that in which we claim to mean that would involve forcible movement of these people in Gaza, these people who might be sheltering in Rafah. I would just say broadly that anything like that would, one, need to be voluntary. Two, I've not seen the specifics of that plan, so I unfortunately can't comment on that. But both in the context of our broader vision for the region, but both in terms of dealing with this immediate issue, there should be no forcible movement or displacement of the Palestinian people. Go ahead.